The Mindfulness Protocol: How Meditation Transforms Cancer Recovery and Cellular Health. Have you ever wondered if your mind could actually influence what happens inside your cells? What if I told you that thousands of cancer patients right now are using a practice so simple, so accessible, that it's changing how their bodies respond to treatment, reducing inflammation, and in some cases, helping to slow cancer progression? This isn't wishful thinking or pseudoscience. This is about understanding the remarkable bridge between your conscious awareness and your cellular biology. Today, we're diving deep into how mindfulness and meditation are revolutionizing cancer care, not as replacements for medical treatment, but as powerful complementary tools that work alongside conventional therapy to give patients real, measurable advantages in their healing journey. Before we go any further, let me be absolutely clear about something critical. Mindfulness and meditation are not cures for cancer. They should never replace chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, or any treatment your oncologist recommends. What we're talking about today is how these practices work in partnership with medical treatment to enhance outcomes, reduce side effects, and fundamentally improve quality of life during one of the most challenging experiences a person can face. The science we'll explore shows that when cancer patients incorporate mindfulness into their daily routine, something remarkable happens at multiple levels of their biology, from their stress hormones down to their gene expression. Let's start by understanding what's actually happening in the body of someone living with cancer. When you receive a cancer diagnosis, your body doesn't just deal with the disease itself. You're immediately thrust into a state of chronic psychological stress. Your mind races with fears about mortality, treatment, family, finances, and an uncertain future. This psychological stress triggers a cascade of biological responses. Your body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, preparing for fight or flight. But here's the problem. This stress response, which evolved to help us escape immediate physical danger, never turns off when you're dealing with cancer. It becomes chronic. Chronic stress does something insidious to your immune system. It triggers what researchers call chronic inflammation, a state where your body is constantly in defensive mode, producing inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. Now, inflammation isn't inherently bad. It's part of how your body heals from injuries and fights infections. But chronic inflammation, the kind that persists month after month, actually creates an environment where cancer cells can thrive. These inflammatory chemicals can promote tumor growth, help cancer cells resist treatment, and even assist them in spreading to other parts of the body. It's a vicious cycle. Cancer causes stress, stress causes inflammation, and inflammation makes cancer more aggressive. This is where mindfulness enters the picture, and the mechanism is fascinating. When cancer patients practice mindfulness meditation regularly, they're doing something that reaches all the way down to their cellular biology. Multiple research studies, including groundbreaking work from institutions like MD Anderson Cancer Center and the University of California, have shown that mindfulness practice directly reduces the production of those inflammatory cytokines we just talked about. One study followed breast cancer survivors who practiced mindfulness-based stress reduction for 8 weeks. At the end of those 8 weeks, researchers measured their blood markers for inflammation and found significant reductions compared to patients who didn't practice mindfulness. But it goes even deeper than that. Scientists have discovered that mindfulness actually affects gene expression through a process called epigenetics. Now, you can't change the DNA sequence you were born with, but you absolutely can influence which genes get turned on or off. Chronic stress activates genes associated with inflammation and suppresses genes associated with immune function. Mindfulness meditation does the opposite. It downregulates or turns down the inflammatory genes while upregulating genes that support healthy immune response. Think about that for a moment. By sitting quietly and training your attention, you're literally changing which genetic instructions your cells are following. This isn't metaphorical. This is measurable, reproducible science. Let's talk about the immune system more specifically, because this is crucial for cancer patients. Your immune system has specialized cells called natural killer cells and T cells that are designed to recognize and destroy cancer cells. It's part of your body's natural defense system. But chronic stress suppresses the activity of these cells. They become less effective at identifying and eliminating cancer cells. Multiple studies have now shown that cancer patients who practice regular mindfulness meditation show enhanced natural killer cell activity. Their immune systems become more vigilant, more effective at doing what they're designed to do. This doesn't mean meditation alone will cure cancer, but it means you're giving your body's natural defenses the best possible environment to support your medical treatment. Now let's address something that every cancer patient deals with, the side effects of treatment. Chemotherapy, radiation, and immunotherapy can be brutal. Nausea, fatigue, pain, anxiety, depression, sleep disturbances. These aren't minor inconveniences. They're life-altering challenges that can make people want to stop treatment altogether. This is where mindfulness shows some of its most immediate and practical benefits. Research consistently demonstrates that cancer patients who practice mindfulness experience significantly less severe side effects from treatment. They report lower levels of nausea, better sleep quality, reduced pain intensity, and most importantly, better emotional well-being throughout their treatment journey. The mechanism here involves something called pain modulation. When you practice mindfulness, you're training your brain to relate differently to physical sensations. Instead of tensing up against pain, which actually amplifies it, you learn to observe it with a quality of acceptance and non-resistance. Brain imaging studies show that mindfulness meditation activates regions of the brain involved in pain regulation while reducing activity in areas associated with the emotional suffering that accompanies pain. The pain signal might still be there, but your brain processes it differently and the suffering decreases. For cancer patients dealing with chronic pain from the disease or treatment, this can be life-changing. Let me walk you through what a practical mindfulness practice looks like for someone going through cancer treatment, because the beauty of this is its simplicity. You don't need any special equipment, you don't need to join a class, although classes can be helpful, and you don't need to sit in uncomfortable positions or empty your mind of all thoughts, which is actually impossible anyway. The most fundamental practice is mindful breathing, and it can be done anywhere, anytime, even in a hospital bed during chemotherapy infusion. Here's how it works. You simply bring your full attention to the physical sensation of breathing. Notice the cool air entering your nostrils as you breathe in. Feel your chest and belly expanding. Notice the slight pause at the top of the inhalation. Then observe the warm air flowing out as you exhale. Feel your body softening and releasing. That's it. That's the practice. Now, your mind will wander. You'll start thinking about your next scan, your treatment schedule, what's for dinner, a conversation you had last week. This is completely normal. The practice isn't about stopping thoughts. The practice is about noticing when your mind has wandered and gently, without judgment, bringing your attention back to the breath. Each time you do this, you're strengthening your capacity for present moment awareness. Why does this matter for cancer patients specifically? Because so much of the suffering that comes with cancer isn't about what's happening right now in this present moment. It's about fears of the future and regrets or trauma from the past. When you're lying in bed at 3 in the morning, your body might actually be comfortable in that moment, but your mind is racing through catastrophic scenarios about the future or replaying the shock of your diagnosis. Mindfulness training gives you a tool to anchor yourself in the present moment, where you can actually cope with what's in front of you rather than being overwhelmed by an imagined future. Beyond basic breath awareness, there's a practice called the body scan that's particularly valuable for cancer patients. In a body scan, you systematically bring awareness to each part of your body, from your toes all the way up to the crown of your head. You're not trying to change anything or fix anything. You're simply noticing what's present. Tension, tingling, warmth, coolness, pain, neutrality. This practice does several things simultaneously. It helps you develop a more friendly and accepting relationship with your body, which can be challenging when your body feels like it's betrayed you with disease. It also helps you detect early signs of problems, like the beginning of a side effect, so you can address it sooner. And perhaps most importantly, it interrupts the tendency to dissociate from your body, which is a common coping mechanism that actually increases suffering in the long run. There's also a specific type of mindfulness practice called loving kindness meditation that shows remarkable benefits for cancer patients. In this practice, you deliberately cultivate feelings of warmth and compassion, first toward yourself, then toward loved ones, then toward neutral people, and eventually toward all beings. You might use phrases like, "May I be peaceful," "May I be healthy," "May I live with ease." Research shows that loving kindness meditation significantly reduces depression and isolation in cancer patients, while increasing feelings of social connection and purpose. When you're going through cancer treatment, you can feel profoundly alone, even when surrounded by supportive people. This practice helps dissolve that sense of isolation by connecting you to the shared human experience of wanting to be free from suffering. Let's talk about what the research actually shows in terms of outcomes. There have now been dozens of randomized controlled trials, the gold standard in medical research, examining mindfulness-based interventions for cancer patients. The results are remarkably consistent. Patients who participate in mindfulness programs, typically 8 weeks of structured practice, show significant improvements in quality of life, reduced anxiety and depression, better sleep, less fatigue, and improved ability to cope with their diagnosis and treatment. Some studies have even shown improvements in biomarkers associated with disease progression, though we need more research to understand the long-term survival implications. One particularly compelling study followed women with breast cancer who practiced mindfulness meditation. Not only did they report better psychological well-being, but when researchers examined their chromosomes, they found something astonishing. The telomeres, which are protective caps on the ends of chromosomes that naturally shorten as we age and undergo stress, were actually longer in the women who meditated compared to the control group. Shorter telomeres are associated with faster aging and increased disease risk. This suggests that mindfulness might actually slow cellular aging processes. Again, this isn't a cure, but it's a powerful demonstration of how mental practices influence physical biology. Now, I want to address something important. Some cancer patients feel resistance to mindfulness practice because they worry it means they're supposed to be positive all the time, or that they're not allowed to feel angry or scared or sad about their situation. This is a complete misunderstanding of what mindfulness is. Mindfulness isn't about forcing positive emotions or suppressing difficult ones. It's about being present with whatever is actually arising, including fear, anger, grief, and despair. The practice is about relating to these emotions with awareness and compassion, rather than being overwhelmed by them or pushing them away. You can be mindfully angry. You can be mindfully grieving. The difference is that you're experiencing these emotions without the added layer of resistance and self-judgment that amplifies suffering. There's also the question of when to practice. For cancer patients, treatment schedules can be unpredictable and exhausting. The good news is that mindfulness is infinitely flexible. Even 3 to 5 minutes of mindful breathing can shift your nervous system from stress mode to rest mode. You can practice while waiting for appointments, during infusions, before bed to help with sleep, or first thing in the morning to set the tone for your day. Consistency matters more than duration. 5 minutes every day will serve you better than an hour once a week. The brain changes through repetition. Each time you practice, you're literally rewiring neural pathways, strengthening your capacity for awareness, calm, and resilience. Some patients find it helpful to work with guided meditations, especially when starting out. There are excellent apps and online resources specifically designed for cancer patients. Hearing a calming voice guide you through the practice can make it easier to stay focused and can feel less lonely than practicing in silence. Other patients prefer silence or gentle background sounds. There's no right or wrong way. The best practice is the one you'll actually do. Let me share what happens when mindfulness becomes a regular part of life for a cancer patient. At first, you might notice small shifts. You sleep a little better. You feel slightly less anxious before appointments. You have moments during the day where you're not thinking about cancer. As you continue, these shifts deepen. You start to notice that you can be with difficult emotions without being consumed by them. You find that you're more present with loved ones instead of being lost in worry. You develop a sense of inner steadiness that doesn't depend on external circumstances. This doesn't mean you're always calm or that you don't have hard days. It means you have a resource, a tool you can return to that helps you navigate the hardest days with a little more grace. The relationship between mind and body isn't one-directional. It's not just that your mental state affects your physical health. Your physical practices affect your mental state too. When cancer patients combine mindfulness with gentle movement practices like yoga or Tai Chi, when available and appropriate for their physical condition, the benefits amplify. Movement helps release physical tension, improves circulation, and can reduce inflammation through different mechanisms than seated meditation. The key is finding what works for your body at each stage of treatment. As we bring this together, I want to emphasize the bigger picture. The science of mindfulness in cancer is still evolving. We're learning more every year about the mechanisms and the potential, but what we already know is profound. We know that mindfulness reduces stress hormones, lowers inflammation, enhances immune function, improves treatment tolerance, reduces symptom burden, and dramatically improves quality of life for people facing cancer. These aren't small benefits. For someone going through the most challenging experience of their life, these benefits can make the difference between enduring treatment and living through it with greater peace and presence. If you're a cancer patient or supporting someone who is, I encourage you to explore mindfulness not as a last resort, but as a fundamental part of comprehensive care. Talk with your oncology team about integrative medicine programs at your treatment center. Many cancer centers now offer mindfulness-based stress reduction specifically for patients. Start small. Even one conscious breath, one moment of presence is valuable. Build from there. Be patient with yourself. This is a practice, not a performance. There's no way to do it wrong as long as you're showing up with intention. Your mind is not separate from your body. Your thoughts and emotions are chemical events that influence every cell. By training your mind through mindfulness, you're not escaping reality or engaging in magical thinking. You're engaging one of the most powerful healing resources you possess, your own conscious awareness, to support your body's innate capacity for health and resilience. Combined with the best medical care available, mindfulness gives you agency in your healing process. It reminds you that even in the midst of circumstances you didn't choose, you still have choices about how you relate to your experience, moment by moment. And those choices, those moments of awareness and presence, add up to something that can truly transform your journey through cancer.